Hi everybody, Tara Vossen-Kemper here, founder of Simplify Your Existence and Life and Relationship Coach. So I'm going to do a video today on forgiveness, and this is a result of a request that I had to talk about forgiveness. So I got an email from somebody specifically around 3 key things that I can glean from this email. So forgiveness overall. Number 1, how do we forgive those who have hurt us? Number 2, how do we forgive ourselves for making mistakes? And number 3, if we can't or don't understand why we made these mistakes, how do we still find space for forgiveness? So, I think first things first, when I talk about forgiveness, I don't mean this kind of sweet, kind of syrupy sweet mentality, to steal Michael Beckwith's words, I don't mean this sense of condoning somebody else's behavior or actions. Not even condoning your own actions if you're making a mistake. I don't mean it's this overwhelming feeling that you just forgive and forget and move on. When I think about forgiveness and the way that I understand it and live my life using forgiveness, it is actively letting go of things that are creating toxicity in our world. So, if somebody hurts me, if somebody makes a mistake or somebody does something wrong towards me in some way, I can actively choose to forgive that person. And I can let go of Cody. I always have dogs around me, in case you didn't know. I guess he's going to hang out with me. Okay. Hey, bud. If somebody's in my life, let me start over. Somebody's in my life, they actively hurt me. I can choose to let it go. Let go of the toxicity that they kind of passed over to me, if you will. So, that does not mean that I keep them in my life if they are consistently being harmful to me in some way. That doesn't mean that I accept what they're doing in terms of condoning it, for example. If there's somebody in your life who is not being nice to you in some way, there is a couple pieces. So we're still on topic number 1. So how do you forgive someone who hurts you? Accepting that it happened, whatever it is. Accepting that they hurt you in some way, that whether they knew better or not, so if it was intentional or unintentional, it still hurt. Accepting it happened is number 1. Number 2, changing something you may or may not have done so it doesn't happen again. So that might be setting a boundary. That's not laying blame on you for the thing that happened, by the way, but it is saying you can create boundaries. So if this person always treats you a certain way, then my question would be to you, why do you keep allowing this person in your life? Dog number 2. Hey, Annie. So there's this need to kind of create a boundary as well around somebody who may be consistently hurting you. Number 3, once you create that boundary, then you forgive the person. And by forgiving, you are letting go of the toxicity in your system. It's not letting that person off the hook. It's literally releasing the negative energy, releasing the unpleasant emotions, choosing to forgive. It's an active decision. It's an active choice. It's done with intention. It's done with a deliberateness that we often don't recognize. And it's not about forgiving. It's not about forgetting the thing that happened. It's not about condoning the behavior. It's about releasing the negativity within. So that's whenever somebody hurts us. When we make mistakes, it's kind of the same thing. We all make mistakes. That's how we learn, right? We can learn in other ways, but we all make mistakes. And they're a part of life, and that's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. When you make mistakes, it's the same thing. Letting go of the guilt or the shame or the sadness or the anger or the confusion or whatever feelings that are creating this distress within. It's about choosing to forgive yourself letting yourself off the hook, saying, you know what? I didn't do this intentionally, or I did do it intentionally. I feel really bad about it, and I won't do it again. There's that change piece, right? And I'm going to forgive myself for making that mistake. Again, whether it was intentional or not, we'll just call it a mistake. I'm going to forgive myself for behaving in that way. And you let it go. Now, if you are consistently making the same mistakes, I would say something else needs to change. So, if you're forgiving yourself over and over and over for making the same mistakes, then there's something else going on. And something needs to change. I'm trying to think of an example. If you are consistently mean to another person, and you just keep forgiving yourself over and over, but you're not changing, that's an issue. So to me, that's not about forgiveness. That's about you're not behaving differently. So it doesn't seem like you really are sorry. For example, you really haven't forgiven yourself, or you really aren't making these changes. With forgiveness comes action. So there's the intentionality behind forgiveness, and there's also the action piece. Now that you know the situation, you're choosing to forgive, now you act differently so as not to create the same situation that you need to forgive. I hope that makes sense. It's not just forgive and I'm done, perfect. No, like there's that choice to forgive. It's, again, a conscious decision, and it's a practice. It's not like you forgive once and you're done forever. You might have to repeatedly forgive somebody over and over and over and over. It's hard to harbor resentment and grudges and anger whenever we're trying to forgive. It's hard to have these two at the same time, which is why it is a practice. Because in practicing forgiveness, we are expanding that and shrinking the space that we allow for the unpleasant, the kind of toxic emotions. And again, then there's the choosing differently piece. We have to choose differently after we decide to forgive. So the third piece is understanding why. So if I don't understand why I'm behaving in a certain way, then I have trouble forgiving myself. So if you think of, there's different ways of thinking about this. There's, of course, the ego piece. We can say that that's your ego blocking you from moving on, blocking you from trying to forgive. If you aren't into that, which is fine, and you don't believe in that type of language, or, that's not your cup of tea, it still is a block. So whether it's ego or not, it's something that's getting in the way of you deciding to forgive. Basically, it's bullshit. So if you are, that sounded so harsh. I don't mean that in a harsh way, but it really is. So if you are not allowing yourself to forgive because you don't understand why, I guess I don't understand that. You can still actively choose to forgive even if you don't fully understand the motive behind the behavior, or the original intentions behind doing something. I think that we often get hung up on the why, on understanding why something happened, or why a behavior took place, or why I acted this way, or why I thought this thing. That, oh my God, I think a lot. I've been told that I overthink, and I can tell when this happens because I get headaches sometimes, because I get so wrapped up in all the different moving parts of an experience and what happened, and somebody else's intentions and my own intentions and all the other factors that are going on. Did I eat earlier that day? How did I sleep the night before? How were my interactions with people? Do I feel like my life is on purpose? Do I feel like I'm giving back? Do I feel like I'm getting enough? The why is never ending. It's never ending. That's why I say it's bullshit. It gets in the way of forgiveness because it's something that is not going to be satisfied with a simple answer, especially if you're an overthinker, or if you are prone to anxiety, or if you are self-aware, or if you're highly sensitive, or if you feel like you have to understand things, a perfectionistic type tendencies, for example. You have to know everything before you can make a decision to change. All that stuff serves to get in the way of actively choosing to forgive. We cannot always understand the why because there are countless factors that exist in a person's life at any given time. Literally right now, not only do we have physiological and biological factors, there's genetic factors, there's environmental factors, there's behavioral factors, there's, again, how did I sleep last night? What did I eat earlier? What have I been thinking about lately? How has my mood been lately? How has my affect been lately? How have I been treating other people? How do I feel like I've been treated? Am I giving enough time to myself? Am I giving enough time to others? Am I being altruistic? Am I giving out of a need to, or am I giving out of a desire to? That is so much, and that's just for one person. How can I possibly figure out my why from a past event when right now I can hardly even figure out my why for this current event? I don't think we will fully ever understand the whys behind some behaviors. That might lead you to feel discomfort because we don't like ambiguity. We like to be able to box things up and set them aside. We want things to make sense. And a lot of things do make sense in a really, really broad view. There's order and chaos, for example. So from a really meta perspective, you can see that things have a flow and that they make sense, and nature always makes sense, even during the process when it's really confusing. Wow, I'm getting totally off track. I'm saying all this to say that when we can't make sense of something, it makes us feel uncomfortable. Usually, maybe not for everybody. For a lot of people, when we can't make sense, we get frustrated, we feel uncomfortable. Do not let that be a block for your forgiveness. That's what I'm saying. Bringing it back full circle now, right? Don't let your inability to understand the why get in the way of your actively deciding to forgive. Sometimes the why really doesn't matter. I really, really promise this. Sometimes it's not significant. Sometimes it just gets in the way. And when you start to behave differently, things will change regardless. So even if you don't understand why, you can still actively choose to behave differently. So it's not like these two have to go together. They can exist separately, if that makes sense. So I would challenge you, if you're letting the why get in the way of you behaving differently, to release that need for a full understanding of why something took place and to behave differently in some way. And maybe that some way starts with forgiveness. So think of somebody in your life right now, everybody, not just people who are letting the why get in the way, but everybody in this moment. Take 1 second and think of a person that is frustrating to you, or that wronged you in some way, or that you just have trouble interacting with. So there's that. Or think of a time recently that you did something wrong and that you might feel some guilt about, or some shame about, or some frustration with yourself about. So now actively say to yourself, I forgive myself, or I forgive this person for the behavior. I choose to release these unpleasant and or toxic emotions. So I choose to release the guilt that I feel about making a mistake. I choose to release the frustration I feel at this person's behaviors. I'm serious. Say that out loud right now, or say it inside your head. I choose to release my frustration with this other person. Second piece, and I will act differently. Whether that means putting up a boundary with a person, whether that means not acting in a way you've been acting, whether that means totally cutting somebody out of your life, whether that means giving somebody another chance if they made one mistake. I choose to act differently. even if I don't understand why it happened in the first place. So that's all I have for today. I hope this was helpful. If you like the video, like the video. If you want to stay up to date, subscribe below. If you have comments or questions, you can shoot me an email at Tara, T-A-R-A, at simplifyyourexistence.com, or you can just leave a comment below and obviously I'll reply to that. I get notifications. Additionally, if you want a weekly newsletter, which I love sending out, I include the videos in some of the emails. Go to simplifyyourexistence.com and sign up there. You'll get access to a 3-part video series on fulfillment and peace and happiness. So I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Yeah, that's it. So have a great day. I will see you next time. Okay, bye.